A question which I've always been happy to answer, but now I feel I should say that you should Google search Casey Affleck on the Jay Leno show last week, in which he explains it much more succinctly than I do. And I think that, so there is an answer, and I'm gonna now defer to the internet for it, because it's funny to watch Casey explain it to Jay Leno, who asked, like, he's like, it's a great movie, but what about that title? and that was all he talked about. So yeah, the title is something that's very important to me, and it actually does have resonance with the movie thematically, but where it actually came from, I'll leave to the Google searches that anyone might want to do.
This Q&A comes with homework.
The letter that Ruth wrote for Bob, she gave it to Scarrett,
Yeah.
and he put it inside a book that was on the table, which was Don Quixote. What's the choice there? I'm sure that wasn't accidental.
You're the first person to notice that.
Okay.
It was, it's not accidental, because like the prop master will be like, okay, I got a bunch of books, and then you just pick one that you like. So it's like there wasn't a thematic. I didn't ask someone to like, oh, we'll get this book because it means something. But it was it was a public domain book that he had on his truck, and I was like, okay, well, Don Quixote is a great book. Let's just put that in there. I wish I could say that there was a deeper resonance to it than that, but it really was a case of that just being an available book that we had on the prop truck, and liking Don Quixote. So it's not a bad one, but yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the music and the person that you got to score the film? Because the music is definitely, it's almost like another character. It just adds so much to the movie. Did you know, is that something you knew before, or did that kind of come along with everything else?
Daniel Hart, the composer, was someone that I met through Toby Hopbrooks, our other partner, and he grew up with Daniel in Dallas, and Daniel is a classically trained violin player who does a lot of rock and roll stuff. He like tours with like pretty major bands, and has his own band as well. And when I was looking for a score for Saint Nick, which doesn't have a score, but we needed one piece of music, Toby suggested that Daniel would be a good person to write that. And he did a great job. And so when I made my next film, the short film Pioneer, I asked Daniel if he would compose the music for that. And he watched the movie and went off and wrote all this music that was so perfect that we just took and dropped right in. And it was 100% perfect. And I didn't even tell him what I wanted. Like I was like, just give me your impressions. And he wrote such a perfect score for that movie that, when you find someone who just gets what you want to do that efficiently, without you even on a psychic level almost, you kind of want to just, keep them to yourself and not let anyone else work with them. But also, you want to keep working with them yourself. And so this was his first feature film score, and it was a very similar situation where he read the script, and I talked a little bit about, some of the music, or musical instruments that I thought would be appropriate, and he just went to town and wrote a bunch of music, and it was all, we just started dropping into the movie, and it would just fit perfectly, and it really became the backbone of the movie in a way that I hadn't expected. I really wanted the movie to be musical, and to have a sort of musical cadence to it and a rhythm to it that was almost more musical than traditionally cinematic, but I never expected it to be, have so much narrative thrust from the score as it does. And for someone this is their first feature film score, I'm amazed at just how wonderful. Every time I hear it, I'm just overjoyed with it. And then I also should give a great deal of credit to Curtis Heath, who's here somewhere in this theater, who wrote a great deal of all the songs in the movie are original, because we didn't want to have any actual music that felt like a reference to something else. So all the songs are original. Curtis wrote most of them, and he also is a guy playing the banjo in the bar, and he is he's back there. Yes, in the back.
Who was the little girl, and how many did you audition for that part?
You can.
Well, I made some excuse to not be there that day, but it was 40, right?
40 sets of twins.
46
Well, that's a
twins.
lot.
So the little girl was played by twins. And there's various logistical reasons why it's better to shoot that way. But yeah, 40 twins is how many? 40 sets of twins.
Yeah, so 80 kids, and the production office was in Madhouse that day,
Yeah.
because they all came, like, you give them all, like, slots of time, they all still show up at the same time, so.
They're from Texarkana.
They're 40, they were 4 years old and never acted before, and they just got along with Rooney really, really well, and also had a, like, natural sensibility to them, and kind of listened when you told them what to do. I can give most of the credit to anything they do to Rooney, who, like, I would tell her what to tell them, and she would sort of direct them as much as I would, because they really loved her and were attached to her, and if they were acting up, she'd get them to actually do what was needed.
And if that didn't work, Dr. Pepper worked.
Yeah, a little bit of caffeine always helped out.